these are impressions, you know. One of the things that a lot of Subud people I noticed early on, because in those days Papa used to be very accessible, you know. Very often we would sit around with Papa in small groups, and if Papa visited a place, they would give a talk, and there'd be latihan and so on, and then half the people would go to his flat afterwards, you know, and sit around hoping that he'd give another talk, you know. Sometimes a small group of people would get in and say, wow, you know. And I noticed that there was a feeling, and I certainly had this in the beginning, there was a feeling that there was the talk, you know, that he gave to everybody, but if you could get in privately by bribing the doorman, you know, you'd get the real inner truth. And yeah, it's true. You got some fascinating. We experienced some fascinating stories and conversations with Baba on these occasions. But it became quite clear to me as time went on that those weren't important. That the real the things that God wanted us to know were said in the talks. And the other things were kind of trimmings, and sometimes they were jokes, you know. A lot of things would go around, oh, Papa said this, or Papa said that, and, you know, about when the world was going to end, or what was the meaning of the dinosaurs, or how, you know, how Indonesia was connected to South America a million years ago, and all that kind of thing. This was all playing. None of this was important. The important things were in the public talks. And it was almost like that was special, you know. He was given a chunk of things that had to be said. And I've tried to always convey this to people, because I think there's still people who go around thinking, well, you know, the people who are close to Bapa somehow got the sort of the real story. And that's quite untrue. You could be real near to Bapa and never learn anything about Subud. The real information was in the talk and was there for everybody.
Yeah, I felt like that too sometimes.
Yeah.
But even though we're not close to Bapa physically, that we are close to Bapa.
That's right. Yeah. You can be a hell of a lot closer to Bapa on the other side of the world, really close to Bapa, than somebody who's seeing him every day. Because I had experience, I mean, for, let's say, 72 to, what, 84, 85, it's 13 years. I was really close to Baba every day. I saw him every day, and even when he had his heart attack, I was doing things when I was taking his pulse every morning and sitting around for an hour while he took his medicine and so on. I can tell you that I went through dry periods just like any Subud member. You know, I went through months where I didn't feel anything, where I was bored, where I was about as far from Bapa as you could get. And this didn't bother him. I mean, you know, he was used to me. There were certain jobs I had to do. But just by being close to him physically didn't mean that I was close to him spiritually. Of course, there were times when I felt very close to him spiritually, but I knew all along that there were people who never came near Bapa, who were much closer than I was.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case now, and will always be like that. It depends on our latihan, who we are.
How was it for you when you heard that Bapa had died? Or were you in Chalanak at the time? Or?
Yes, yes. Again, it's something Bapa did perfectly. For various, after, I don't know if you know, but about the end of December 83, I went to Anugraha to help with trying to finish the building. And Bapa gave me permission to go, but he wasn't very much in favor. In fact, he originally told me not to go. And some of the people involved in Anugraha wrote a very desperate letter saying that if I didn't go, the thing was going to die then and there. And the final thing was, he asked me, do you want to go? And I said yes. And the reason I said yes, not because I like to do terrible jobs, but because I had the feeling that people abroad felt that this was Bapa's project and that they would blame Bapa if it failed. Whereas Bapa didn't have that feeling. Bapa felt that this had nothing to do with him, and if it failed, that was tough luck. But so I went, but I felt that I had done it almost against Bapa's wishes. And while I was away, I got the feeling very much that he was not happy that I was gone. And when I got back, I was supposed to be away 3 months, but finally it was 5 months. When I got back, I had the feeling like I'd lost Bapa's confidence. And I don't need to go into the details, but it became very clear that that was the case. I even offered to resign from Vijoyo, and he said, no, you know, what you're talking about, something like that. And yet it became clear to me that that was what I ought to do. But it took a couple of years before I felt free to do so. In the meantime, he also stopped giving many talks, and most of all his correspondence was gradually taken over by Guru Hayu. First I went to see him once a week, and then once every 2 weeks, and then once a month.